This is the JFJ Conspiracy, where the shop talk is rock.
I'm Jim.
I'm Frank.
I'm Jerry.
And this is the JFJ Conspiracy, where the shop talk is rock. Yep. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
You have a good
Doing
Christmas?
Doing very good. Yeah,
All
Christmas
right.
was great.
Frank, good?
Excellent over on this side. Actually got away for a little bit, went to Solvang, and had a couple nights up in cool Santa Barbara County air, and it was a good time away.
Nice.
Yeah. We've been getting it's a slow rolling machine, but the last episode got quite a few plays. I was happy to see that it finally caught on a little bit, and I want to let all our listeners know that I've reached out to other podcast communities on Facebook, and we're trying to share our podcast with them, maybe do a little cross-pollination, and
That'd be great.
maybe we'll get some guests that way, or we'll be a guest on somebody else's podcast. So I'll let you guys know when we get some information that way.
Great, Frank. Thank you.
But I want our listeners to know we're on Instagram, JFJ Conspiracy. We're on Facebook. You got to like us, got to share us, tell your friends about us. And also, so you guys, if you don't know yet, we just started Twitter, JFJ Conspiracy Podcast. And so if you're on Twitter, get on there and follow us, like us, and share your thoughts with us. How about that?
Sounds wonderful to me. I just tweeted that we're getting ready to start our 6th podcast, and, check it out, people. So we'll see what happens. Got a few followers, but we'll see.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Well, this week we've got 3 songs we're going to be playing. 3 very different songs, too. I like it. It's a little diversity.
Oh, yeah. That's what I love about
in
this.
the rock world.
That's what I love about you guys. Yeah. Very different.
And after we check that out, I think from there we're going to jump into looking back at Kiss Alive. Oh, yeah. A monumental
Wonderful
album.
pick, Jim. Oh, huge.
Yeah.
I think I was still riding.
That's a good way
I think
to
I was
put
still
it.
ing a Schwinn Stingray when that came out.
Nice. I had a Stingray.
I had a Royce Union. Okay, but.
Well, I was going to say.
Or a Murray. I'm not sure.
One of those.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't say Huffy, at least.
I may have been. Actually, my bike was a Frankenstein, and I'll tell you, I wanted motocross handlebars so bad. And my dad said, well, what are you going to do to work for it to go pay for them? They were like $7 back then in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
A lot of money.
Yeah. And I said, well, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask Mom. And
because if you say no, Dad, I'm asking Mom.
Exactly. And that went nowhere. So what my dad did one day while I was at school was he took my regular handlebars, and you know how they look, that big old shape that they had, took a piece of rebar and welded it in between
right across.
Crossbars. Yeah.
I love it. God bless him.
Made me ride that to school. And yeah. And I had actually went to Gemco and bought the pad, those cool pads they had with the Velcro and the
to hide the rebar.
Yeah, but it wasn't long enough so you could still see the rebar in between. So I was the poor kid with the homemade handlebars. So
You know what? That's the way it was back then. You didn't just go to the store and buy stuff. I remember us and our guys, we switched rims, we switched, sprockets, handlebars, everything.
But you know what? I wouldn't trade those times for anything, because those times are what brought us the album Kiss Alive and a bunch of other great classic albums that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
So right now we've got 3 great songs. Why don't we start with Jim? I know you've got actually a friend of ours.
Yes, I do.
Please tell us.
Yeah. So talking this week about the Glimmer Stars, fronted by a guy named Minnie Mendez, Charter Oak alumni. Go Lancers.
Go Lancers.
Yeah. Class of 79. He probably doesn't want us to mention that. Graduated with Vince Neil.
Yep.
If Vince actually graduated, I don't know.
Went to school at the same time.
Good point.
So Glimmer Stars been around since the year 2000. We're on a couple compilation albums. They played the International Pop Overthrow Festival a few times, very prestigious power pop festival. A couple albums out, a handful of EPs. They've done it. So the song we're going to be playing tonight is called Shine. Half Read Books and Coffee. This is off their retrospective album. Covers 2000 to 2016. They also have another EP out right now as well. You can find them on CD Baby, Bandcamp, iTunes, all the normal places.
Yeah.
And great song, great songwriter. He does some solo stuff also, acoustic, just as Minnie Mendez. But one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite artists. I've seen him a handful of times. Always great live. Just rock.
All right, but before we throw that song out there, I just want to say, if my memory serves me correctly, he was on the wrestling team with my brother. So, yes, Minnie
Wait a
Mendez,
minute.
I've seen you in a slinglet, so.
Oh,
Go
Lord.
figure. Yeah. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
I didn't say that, Minnie. I love you. I didn't say that.
So I should probably mention who's in the band. So on this particular track is the original lineup. Mark Schrock, Howie Miller on guitar, Tony Snow on drums. Tony also plays drums in Dramarama.
Oh, wow.
Played for a long time subbing in Gene Loves Jezebel. He's like Mr. Utility. He's playing like a ton of people.
Gene Loves Jezebel. Heck yeah. Wow.
Current lineup is a three-piece. They're a power trio now. Steve Soto on guitar and Robert Casillas on drums. And why don't we take a listen?
Let's give it a listen. Here we go. Shine. Half Read Books and Coffee.
You're the one with every answer to words that I had yet to say. And I might ask if you would stay a while, but you would just get in the way. So come down from your cloud, 'cause everything is now. I ain't got much, you'll see. Some half-read books and coffee. Oh yeah, come on. You were the one with every question, and I could end it where you start. And it was you and it was me, 'cause there's a thorn for every heart. So come down from your cloud, 'cause everything is now. I ain't got much, you'll see. Some half-read books and coffee.
That's rocking good stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
You know, and from the music that I've heard from the Glimmer Stars, that is one of their stronger songs.
Oh, yeah.
Gets up and rocks. I like it.
It does. You know, he has a unique way of writing. You probably know a handful of artists like this, that when you hear them for the first time, you swear you've heard these guys before.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
There,
that
it has a sense of familiarity to it, and at the same time, you've never heard it. It sounds fresh.
I like it.
And you know, guys, how much I love 3-minute songs.
Yeah.
Their first album, I forgot to include this in their first album. 11 songs, comes in at 30 minutes.
Oh,
To me,
wow.
that's just
Wow.
perfect. That is just perfect.
I forgot what album I had recently. Kiss album. I don't know if it's Love Gun, but I think it came in at 48 minutes.
Yeah,
So-
too long.
Wow. Wow.
Well, you know, last episode when we reviewed Rocks, that was a 34-minute album.
That's what I'm talking about.
all you need.
Perfection.
You know, good point, Jim. You're right, because Rock's
Perfection.
kicks butt. And
Yep.
It
I wouldn't.
does.
If you would ask me how long that album was, I wouldn't have said 30 something.
No.
Would have thought way longer. Wow.
Well, you know that is a well-produced song. Yeah, they're kicking it up a notch on that one. I
Guitar.
really enjoyed
Yep.
it.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. And you say they're on CD Baby and Bandcamp
And iTunes.
and iTunes. Check them out, people. You won't be disappointed, I'm sure.
Yeah, find them on Facebook at the Glimmer Stars, and follow them there. Smash that like button
There
and
you go,
follow.
smashing. Okay.
Yep.
Smash it.
And they play a lot of gigs in Anaheim. What is the name of the hut?
Doll Hut.
The Doll Hut.
We'll see them, guys.
They go play. They play there quite a while, and if you guys do want to go down there, right next door is
Let's
a
go.
screaming taco joint. I tell you, there's nothing better than rock and roll and street tacos. I'm telling you.
Nope. No, there isn't.
All right.
Hand in hand, really.
Hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. No.
All right. Well, let's move forward. I'm going to talk about a band who I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details because I've got an interview lined up with Ajax Garcia, and we're just missing the mark with the holidays. And different things. We just couldn't make it happen. We tried several times, and he's more than willing to come on the show. And I think you guys would really be interested in listening to his story. He is a Los Angeles native as far as his upbringing. He's raised on the streets of L.A. The band that he
I like
plays
them
with-
already.
Oh yeah, the band he plays with is the Napoleon Bonaparte.
Kuda A+ for the name alone.
Absolutely.
Oh
Absolutely.
My gosh.
One of
When I
one
heard
of
that-
the best names I've ever heard.
Now
Absolutely, Jim.
they've
Love
got
it.
a
I loved it.
CD that came out 2010, I think it is. It's called Crisis, and it's straight ahead raw rock and roll and punk. And you guys should give it a listen. You can check it out on
Absolutely.
iTunes. It's called Crisis from the Napoleon Blownaparts. And the main guy is Ajax Garcia, and you may be familiar with some of his other work besides music. And I'm talking about if you've ever heard of Erie Pop Industries. He's an artist. This man can paint with just about any medium whatsoever, but he's got a love for AC/DC and Angus Young. I was talking to him one day, probably for 2 hours straight, on his love of Angus and that whole guitar sound. Huge Kiss fan, which already endears me to him, you know.
Absolutely. He's in.
Yeah. And, sorry, Frank Casado. And but we've got this is a song called Sleepwalkers, and it's a departure. He asked me to actually play the original song I was going to play was
Hell yeah, right?
Hell Yeah, and it was that's a minute 45 or a minute 50.
It's pretty
55.
short. My first thing I thought when I saw the length of it, Jim's going to love this.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
And I did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a faster, kick-ass song. And then this particular song called Sleepwalker is a collaboration also with Dave Ketching from Eagles of Death Metal, and amongst other people that are on this song. But let's give it a listen, and then we'll talk about it.
Sleepwalker, I'm on the docket. crucified. And the breather prays for the heather who can't get to no place they never been. So come and take it, slip right away.
This particular song, a little slower than the stuff that I was originally planning on playing. It's a whole different kind of vibe that he's going for now. But I suggest you guys listen to that with headphones because it's got a lot, another tune's got a lot going on, and even though it's a stripped down sound.
Yeah.
And right now, I was talking to Ajax yesterday, and he was telling me they're down to a two-piece, just himself playing guitar and singing, and a drummer. And they've been playing at the Viper Room and a few other places down there in Hollywood. So, dude gets around, and I'll leave the link on the end of the podcast so you guys can check him out. I really want you to check out his Facebook page. I think you guys would be interested in seeing some of his art, stuff he's done with the KISS icon logos. Paintings of Gene and Paul are just amazing. He's got one going on right now of Angus Young from the looks like the what's that Highway to Hell album. That's just good stuff. Just I'm impressed.
The bebop hat, and the tail.
You know how I feel. Anybody that gets up and plays live is a hero to me.
Absolutely.
You know? And
absolutely,
this
There's
guy's got
like
it all.
live music.
You know, he can play, he can sing, and plus he's an artist to boot. So he's just a multi-talented guy. And also the reason I'm not giving a whole lot of background other than himself is while doing a little research, there was a thing on Blabbermouth about him actually at one time possibly being asked to replace Buckethead in Guns N' Roses before their major reunion.
Oh, I love me some Buckethead.
So I want to get a hold of him and actually hear his side of that and have him tell us, what really happened with that. So, anyways, that is the Napoleon Blownaparts. And
I can speculate as to what happened with it.
Yeah, don't be an Axel. Anyways,
I like the song.
Yes,
and well produced, well written, great tone. I thought the engineering on the song was great.
Yeah.
I liked the other song. And we didn't get to hear the outro. We didn't get to hear the outro on that song. And for me, I loved that part. I thought it was a great little switch up and was very interesting.
Well, that's why I'm going to leave the link down there because the people that are listening to this are not getting the full effect of that song because once that outro picks up, it gets
it changes gears. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You're right, Jim. Completely changes gears.
The whole dynamic of the song is different after that.
Yeah, the whole dynamic of the song changes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's Napoleon Blownaparts. Check him out.
I love that name.
I do too. I enjoy that.
My gosh.
All right. Well, Jerry, what do you have for us tonight?
There's an artist called Ken Sharp, and he's not so heavy as these other songs, folks. But to me, he's such a wonderful find. It's to me, it just totally takes me back. It's a time machine back to the late 70s, mid 70s, with artists like Nick Gilder, Jay Ferguson, Jigsaw. You know, the keyboards in the background. A couple of songs, I wondered if it was a female singing, but same thing with when Nick Gilder came out. I thought "Hot Child in the City." Who's that woman singing that? To me, it's a special treat. You guys turning me on to Ken Sharp. Look him up, people. He's got several albums out. His latest is Backseat Beauty or Beauty in the Backseat. And it's such a treat. The one song he does that got me into this was called Rock Show. And it's got an intro and an outro by the one and only Ace Frehley. Now, this guy's a good-selling author. He's wrote books on KISS, the making of KISS, 72 to 75. Excuse me for looking at my notes, folks. It's the making of Double Fantasy with John Inoco. He's done liner notes for, Elvis, Cheap Trick, Janis Joplin, Sly and the Family Stone. He contributes to a magazine called Rock Cellar, as in not the basement, but the cellar. Mm-hmm. He's done interviews with Ringo. It's, to me, everybody in conspiracy land, it's such a late 70s treat to hear this guy. He's got several albums out. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's Ace does the intro and outro. He's got Fernando Perdomo on drums, bass, electric guitar, and Moog. He's got Tia Simone and Laura Marion on background vocals. And to me, it's just such a, what were you in 7th, 8th grade in the late 70s? It's such a flashback, people. It's such a wonderful flashback. The more I hear it, the more I love it.
All right. Well, we're going to give it a listen.
Yeah, thank you.
And I do want to make mention that Ken did ask that we only play about a minute of it because the name of the game is selling music and not giving it away. And I wholeheartedly support that. So we're going to play you a minute snippet, and it should be enough for you to get your taste buds wet and want to get out there and purchase it.
And if I may, Frank, before you lay it out, if you want to go to iTunes or YouTube or whatever and go to the song Rock Show by Ken Sharp, Ace's outro starts at 4:25, 4 minutes, 25 seconds if you want to just get to it.
All right, well, let's give it a listen. This is Ken Sharp with Rock Show. Okay. Sorry, folks, but that's just a little...
Was that the minute?
A little over a minute there.
Oh.
And it was just getting into it.
Yes.
Getting into it.
Guys, AM radio, late 70s. Oh.
That's a good, clean sound there, guys.
It's beautiful.
It's great that you mentioned Nick Gilder. I was listening to this song on the way into work this morning. I thought the exact same thing. I was thinking, man, total Nick Gilder vibe.
Jigsaw, yeah.
I'm a fan of Ken's, and he's got some stuff that's a little more rocking than this, but the guy's a multi-instrumentalist.
Mm-hmm.
I think Daryl Hall played on this album also. Wow. Ken's a Philadelphia guy, and so he kind of grew up with that Philly sound, and was a huge Kiss fan, obviously, which is why he got Ace on the track. But
nice.
He's got some great songs. He's got a great sense of humor. He has a song out. I've got the 7-inch. It's called "I Want to Be David Cassidy."
Right.
He's got another song called
"My Girlfriend Hates the Beatles."
My Girlfriend Hates the Beatles, which it's a great song. The lyrics are just too stinking funny.
Yeah. Be my ex-girlfriend.
Right. And but I would highly recommend that you check the guy out. I mean, especially if you love power pop and if you're jonesing for that 70s AM radio sound, he's got. But it kind of runs the gamut. You can't really pigeonhole him too much because he's going for a particular sound. He's very deliberate in what he writes, and he does a great job of it.
Absolutely, good stuff.
Yes.
Right. And about how many albums do you know that he has actually out?
I can go over him. His first album was 1301 Highland Avenue, which was 94, 95, but there's a distribution problem. It only came out in Japan.
Oh, okay, import time. Okay.
Import, yeah. And then 5 years later, he has Happy Accidents in 2000. He's got Sonic Crayons in 07. He's got New Morning, as in You're Mourning the Loss of Someone, in 16. And then you got the single I Want to Be David Cassidy, Utopia, She Hates the Beatles. They're all singles. And then his latest album from last August is Beauty in the Backseat, and that's where that song Rock Show just came from. So he's got some material out there, and he's no slouch. But what Jim turned me on to is he does a lot of writing, a lot of contributing to magazines. Yeah. When he wrote the Kiss thing from 72, 75, and then he threw out the Double Fantasy with John and Yoko. I mean, that's heavy duty stuff. I haven't read any of it, obviously. I love that music. It was that time in my life when, writing your
Jerry, you have the notes there. I think he also did some writing for like behind the music or some.
Well,
I want to say it was some documentary, rock documentary.
What was the one on hip hop? He did one on hip hop too, a book.
Mm-hmm.
But the documentaries, yeah, I don't know, Jim. I got the I just have the books he's done.
Oh, okay.
I love the titles of his songs, though. He's definitely has an imagination.
Anyway,
He's
great
got-
writer.
he's got
You've read his stuff, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, we've talked about some of the books and everything before, and probably without even realizing, who it is we were talking about at
Right.
the time. Because I didn't know he had music.
Well, I was totally into. Now I was the opposite, Frank. I
Mhm.
fell in love with the music, and then Jim says, "Well, he's written some," and you find out it's like, well, wait a minute. I'm in love with the music, and he was writing a book about Kiss. And it's great stuff, guys. This music thing is, I would have never thought I would hear stuff like that again.
Right.
And I listened to Ken Sharp, and it totally takes me back in time to a wonderful place in my life. And yeah, that's the power of music, people.
Well, there you go,
the power
guys.
of music.
3 different songs and three great things to check out. Just I didn't think there was a clunker in the bunch this time.
Nope.
It's
No.
good
Well
stuff
done,
all
guys.
the way around. Well, that brings us to the classic album,
All right.
Kiss Alive.
How you doing, people?
Oh, yeah. 1975. Came out September 10th, 1975.
Wow.
And what were we, 7th grade at that time or
Think
something like that? 6th
75
grade?
was
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
fifth or fifth or sixth. Yeah.
I remember, and like I said, like a lot of our early music for Jim and I, we were hanging out over at Todd Newman's house, and his brother would have an album and say, "Hey, you guys got to check this out." And that's where I first saw the album cover and listened to the music, and ran home because I lived not more than 5 minutes away, and I ran at a full pace, not worrying about my asthma. And I said, "Mom."
There was no such thing back then.
Oh, I had it.
Oh no.
I said, "Mom, we got to go to Music Plus." And
Yeah.
she said,
Yeah. Do you want a Weezer album?
yeah. She said, "Well, Christmas is right around the corner,
Yeah.
So I had to wait from the time that album came out, and I think over at Todd's house, his brother had it fairly early when it came out. I had to wait from September till December to actually get my hands on a copy of my own. And what a glorious Christmas that was, though, because
Same thing here. Christmas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Christmas is 75.
There was no way to disguise a record when you wrapped it up.
Oh, no.
And you just knew. And I felt it, and I knew it was a double album, and I just knew because I didn't ask for Tommy. I just knew this was going to be Kiss Alive,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember ripping that thing open, and I wore the first one I had out. I mean, just
Oh, yeah.
played it and played it and played it. And I want to tell you a little story before we get into it too much, but like I said, used to listen to it over at Todd's house. And at the end of side 2, the song "She" is the last song on that particular side, and that's where Ace's solo was at. And but it wasn't a long drawn out solo like Alive 2. It was just kind of his licks and everything. And at the end of the song, you hear Paul Stanley shout out something, and we didn't know what it was he was saying. And me and Todd came to the conclusion that he said, "Eat me, Leechy Tonk." And so
I didn't know you spoke German, Frank.
exactly. Well, for the longest time, we would go to school.
What an insult.
Exactly. Well, we
Is
would
it?
go to school, and every time somebody was acting up, we'd say, "Well, eat me, Leechy Tonk," because that was I kid you not. 2 years
Wow.
later, I'm at the show at the Fabulous Forum. Ace plays Shock Me and does the whole bit, and Paul Stanley says, "Ace Frehley, lead guitar." All of a sudden, I said, "Wait a second.
I like Eat Me Leechy Tonk better.
I got to go back." Yeah. I had to go back and listen to the record. Son of a bitch, he says, "Ace Frehley, lead guitar."
Lead guitar.
Never
Yeah.
knew
Wow.
that. Never
It's hard
knew
to tell, though, on the album.
No,
though. It
I didn't even
sounds-
know.
It
I didn't
sounds
even know.
warped. I listened to it again today, and I was like, the only thing you can really kind of make out is lead guitar.
I didn't even hear
It
that.
doesn't even sound like he's saying Ace Frehley.
I thought he said Leechy Tonk. Eat me, Leechy Tonk. Yeah. And so here I was calling people Leechy, a Leechy Tonk, not even knowing what that was. Of course.
Fella. Hey,
We
fella,
had a-
you're Leechy Tonk. What are you looking at, Leechy Tonk?
Yeah, and that was just one of those East Coast things. They had that New York swagger, and so we were going to be cool and call everybody, "Hey, eat me, Leechy Tonk." Yeah, and I bet if you ask Todd, he doesn't remember any of it because he's got selective memory. Anything that makes us look bad.
Total denial.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he wasn't there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Our Todd. That's why we love him.
That album, For Great Side. That is an album to listen to. And my poor brother, he had 8-track, so you just be getting into a tune and it would stop in the middle of a song, click over to the
change
next
tracks. Yeah.
Oh, I hated that. So, had it on album, and I would, listen to that thing day and night. That was, it was a good, at that time, what we thought, live album. Just great.
I still think you guys are the one that crushed my groove on that. I think they just plugged in at the Cobo Arena in Detroit and just laid it out.
Yeah.
We're recording. Okay.
One night,
2,
one
3,
take.
4, boom.
They
All the
sure-
way through, live and wonderful.
They
And
sure
then you
would like
guys
us to
said there's
think that.
overdubs. Oh.
Yeah. And they never came out with the truth of the matter that it was done over 4 different nights, and I would have never known the difference because Eddie Kramer did such a great job of engineering that thing and getting it. It was seamless. It was a seamless album.
Yes,
so,
it was.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your first thoughts on that, Jim?
My first album also, and I remember the interesting thing was we kind of learned about Kiss early on, because like you said, Todd's brother had the first 3 Kiss albums, which was kind of unheard of.
Yes.
And I remember Todd showing me like the album cover of the first Kiss album, and he said you got to listen to these guys, and I was looking at it and I was like, what the heck is this?
Yep.
What are they doing?
And I'm thinking, I don't think I'm going to like this.
Right.
This is weird.
A horror show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Horror show. And then Todd busted out. He called Frank and I one day and he said, you guys got, I bought this album, Dressed to Kill. You guys got to come over and listen to it.
Oh, yeah, I loved her.
And I was all, those Kiss guys again you're talking about? But we came over and, oh my gosh, blew Frank and I just right out of the water.
Absolutely.
Dressed to
Love
Kill
that.
And so it was great because you kind of felt like you were in the underground of like early, and we would go back to school. This was 6th grade, and we're going back to school and telling everybody, you got to check out this band Kiss. And they're like, yeah, Kiss, never heard of them, don't know what you're talking about. And then shortly after that fall, I guess, is when Alive came out.
It was amazing.
7th grade, and all of a sudden everybody's jumping on it, and you're it was like a little bit of the magic was lost. You wanted everybody to understand how great they were, but then when they did, you were a little crushed because it was like,
that was my secret, damn it.
Yeah, they're my band. Now they're kind of everybody's band, but
but there was a certain division also, because not so much with Alive, but when Destroyer came out, you were either a Kiss fan or you hated them. And
Destroyer's wonderful
people
too.
a lot of people would just almost threaten your life if you were a Kiss fan for being a Kiss freak. You're a Kiss freak.
Yeah.
And that's not music. Yeah. And that's debatable. I enjoyed it. It got me through a lot of hard times.
Same here.
Absolutely.
Same
Absolutely.
here.
You can get lost in that music.
Yeah.
There was something in a lot of those songs that spoke to me, especially Destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just a sonic powerhouse, Alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And going back and listening to it again today, just it brings back a lot of memories.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it does.
But you just and knowing what you know about it now, like, so that it was done over 4 days and there were overdubs and this and that.
Are you sure that's true, guys? No.
But I was listening to the drums and I thought, these just sound so live. I mean, the hi-hat's a little tinny or whatever, It doesn't sound like it's in the studio.
No.
Whatsoever. And I think sonically, I read a quote where Paul Stanley said, he goes, people release live albums now and it makes Alive sound like it was, recorded in a washroom somewhere. But
I don't think
I don't hear that.
No,
I don't hear that at all.
I love the sound of the Alive album. As a matter of fact, when Alive 2 came out, it was a letdown.
It was to me too.
The way they produced that, it was just way too in your face, and it just
a little distorted.
Magic, the magic was gone for me at that point for the live aspect of it.
Right.
But
To me, the live one, yeah, it's Paul could talk. He could talk to the audience.
Mhm.
The live two, he's hollering.
Yeah.
He has to yell as loud as he can, and to me, that's the major difference.
And it's too much yelling. You know, we talked about this last week. Is like,
The
you know, his
too much.
banter in between is kind of at a minimum.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, he only introduces a handful of songs. I mean, he goes extended on, you know, Cold Gin and what's the other one? But a lot of times, like, you know, Come On and Love Me, he just gets up there and shouts, "Hey, come on and love me," and then
gets
he,
into the song. Yeah.
you know, we're gonna get this place hotter than hell.
Mm.
You know, there's nothing extended. There's no long
Banter. Yeah.
banter, whatever you want to call it. You know.
The formula of the Alive album at that time too, with the extended drum solo. You know, I'm now.
Don't do it, Frank. Don't do it.
No, if I go to a show now, I don't want the drum solo anymore. I don't.
Not
need,
even the drum solo from 100,000 Years from Kiss Alive 1.
Oh,
I'd go straight to it. I could put that needle right on that spot on the album.
Well, let me tell you, I listened to that thing so much that I probably drove Miss Gentz and Miss Robinson and all those teachers crazy because I would play that whole drum solo, the whole 17 minutes of it on my desk at school. And then I would get into the rap that Paul Stanley did, you know?
Right.
And, you know, if you
Right.
if you say you believe in rock and roll, whoa, you know, I would do the whole thing. And people would look at you like, oh, you're special needs. You know, why do you
Well,
know
we
this
were.
stuff?
We
Yeah.
wue
And then you just turn and say, "Eat me, Leechy Tonk."
That's, you
That's
know,
right.
that's
And then
exactly
either
how
that
it
or
would be.
I can't hear you.
Yeah. How you doing, people? You know,
Yep.
so that's, you know,
I love that, Frank.
I'm sorry that's just how it is. That's what I heard. But that album, you know, 4 great sides, and originally I'd asked you guys, you know, we're not going to pick our favorite song and our least favorite song on this album because, being the Kiss freaks that we are, there's really I do have one song that I'm not fond of, but the rest of the album,
Really?
yeah, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of
Oh, it's got to be. Okay, yeah, that's what broke him. It's the one that broke him.
Think I know what song you're gonna say.
I'm gonna say Deuce right off the top.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've never really gotten into that song, and I don't know if it's Gene yelling about his grandma. I don't know what it is.
It's kind of a weird song.
It's a strange
it is.
song.
Lyrically,
Grandma out of here.
Yeah.
huh?
And then that's the song where they always do the synchronate, the dancing together and the whole bit. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was just too hokey for me. Even as a kid, I didn't like seeing them do that.
Wow.
I loved that.
Do you?
I loved it too,
I
and I
do.
thought, how did they keep their place musically while they're, you know?
But if you go back and you look at Parliament Funk, or if you look back at a lot of '70s bands before them, they were doing the exact same thing. You know,
I'm not saying it was original. I'm
Yeah.
just saying it gives you something visual to see.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something interesting. It's kind of weird and like kind of a weird tangent here. Gilligan's Island. They had some band who like washed up on the
Oh,
shore
looked
of
like the
the.
Monkey
Oh, they're like
band,
the
yeah.
60s.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I
yeah.
remember it was Bingo, Bango, Bongo, and
Right.
Irving. I don't even remember what the name of the band was. Some
Yeah.
rodent or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
I
they
remember that.
they
Cockroaches.
play.
Yeah.
They play, and they do like this synchronized movement, all of them. And I was just watching it and thinking like, how completely professional it looked, you know, because they weren't just up there playing. I mean, they
Right.
had they gave you something visually to watch, and
Right.
I think which is probably an outgrowth of that era, you know, late '60s or whatever it was at that point. But
Yeah, I didn't. Get
Yeah,
that.
I got to look up the name of that band. I swear it's on the tip of my
Yeah,
tongue.
it's
I
like
can't.
the Cockroaches or something like that.
Yeah,
It was a rip-off of
yeah.
the Beatles or
The
something.
Flying
something.
CBs,
It was supposed to be
yeah.
something similar to the Beatles.
That's
But
Yeah, yeah.
Well, like I was saying, we're not going to pick a favorite song, but I did want you guys to pick a favorite side, because if you had the album, you have a favorite side. So Jerry, right off the top, has jumped
Side
on
4.
side 4,
Yep.
and explain why.
It starts off with Rock Bottom,
You
Cold Gin with Paul Stanley. Rock and Roll All Night. Of course, to me, the live version's what just
broke 'em.
sent them through that stratosphere. And then, of course, my favorite tune off Kiss Alive 1, there's 2.
Mhm.
One of them is on side 4, Let Me Go Rock and Roll. The last song on the last side. I love it. I love Let Me Go Rock and Roll, and I love Nothing to Lose when Pete comes in.
Mhm.
I always love that part where they crescendo up and then stop, and then Pete comes in. You got nothing to lose. Lose. I love it. I love it. But side 4, Kiss Alive.
Even as a
Old Gin. Oh, the banter.
13, 14-year-old kid, I knew Nothing to Lose was about butt stuff. You know, I didn't know Eat Me, Leechy Tonk, but I knew Nothing to Lose was about butt
one
stuff.
thing leads to the
Are
other.
you serious? You knew that?
I knew that, yeah, and I remember thinking...
Because I didn't find that out till much later, and
I didn't even know about it. Why
changed my whole perspective of the song. I was like, oh, I don't like it so much now.
That's funny. Yeah,
Rock Bottom is Booty Bottom?
Not Rock Bottom. Nothing to Lose.
Oh, excuse me,
Nothing to Lose.
Nothing to Lose, yeah.
Oh, man, and that's probably one of my favorite Pete songs.
I love that song, and yet I knew right away what it meant. I was like, well, that's pretty dark. You know what? What are these guys singing about this for? They don't need to do that. But then,
well, especially when you're in the 7th grade, you don't want to think about that.
Exactly.
Well, I didn't, and I'm 55 right now, and I still haven't. Thanks for killing me.
Pop that button.
Well,
I
mean,
now I gotta
somebody
listen to it again with a different mindset. It's gonna ruin it.
Yeah, when I was working at the record store, this guy named Chris. He used to come in, and he was a huge Kiss fan, and so we would talk about Kiss and whatnot. And he's the one that told me, like, oh yeah, Nothing to Lose is about that. And I was like, oh, what? Yeah. And he's all like, yeah. And I was like, nah, I kind of discounted it. And then I saw an interview with Gene where he said, like, oh yeah, this is what it's about. And I was like,
I mean, of all
I don't want to hear the song now.
They've never really been big on innuendos or anything, but this was their most blatant song, I thought.
Isn't innuendo? Isn't that Italian Preparation 8?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it
innuendo?
is.
I guess I just didn't want to believe it.
Maybe not.
I still don't, guys. I'm telling you, I might not listen to that song ever again. I just may not.
Oh, no. Oh, sorry about that.
Sorry,
well, Jerry, what's your favorite? Or Jim, excuse me. What's your favorite side of that album?
I'm going with side 4 also. Rock Bottom is probably my favorite song on the album just because of the way it's engineered. Mm-hmm. It is so sonically potent. And I think it's the song where Gene's bass sounds the best.
Yeah.
And when he comes in on that song, I mean, it's just bombastic, and I just love it. Just absolutely love it. My exception is Let Me Go Rock and Roll, and I'll tell you why. It's
really?
Just too blasted long. And I realize they're drawing it out because it's the end of the end of the show,
though, Jim, where they all just that bass.
Dude, well, it's well past the 3-minute mark.
Oh, that's right, Frank. I forgot. Jim and his 3 minutes.
Well,
listen to the last.
It's a lot of solo. I just felt it goes on too long, but I mean, if you're there watching it, it's probably a whole different thing.
Well, you don't want
to
if you're there, yeah.
No,
right. So I get it, but
as
a kid sitting, I'll forget as a kid, as me sitting now listening to it, it's like, yeah, it's like the extended drum solo. Wow. It's like you held this out way too long.
I think it goes maybe 1 or 2 solos too long because they do each take a turn and then kind of come back to it again, and it's almost like they forgot how to end the song.
Right.
But,
okay, everybody look at each other on a stage. Okay, now we're gonna figure out how we're gonna get out of this.
Exactly.
It's not that I don't like the song. I do like the song. It's just, it's the kind of the extended dance version, not just.
Yeah.
Well, I can see that. You put it in that light. Yeah, extended dance version. I can deal with that. Yeah.
And the
kind of is
the studio version of that song off of was it Hotter Than Hell?
Yeah.
Just bland is all get out. It's a
plodding.
snooze fest.
It plods.
Yeah. And this is why they broke, because, and they've said it themselves, this was the true experience of Kiss, was listening to them live and seeing them live. They couldn't capture that in the studio for whatever reason at that time. And those songs all, pardon the pun, but they come alive on that album.
Yes, I remember, because I got the originals after that, probably the following Christmas, I think that came out or whatever, and I got that set, and then I remember going back and listening to the studio versions of some of those songs and just like, it was like, it was like a little bit of a letdown.
Well, you guys both like side 4. I'm surprised. And the reason I'm surprised because Rock and Roll All Night's on that, and that's one of those songs
that's not why I picked it though.
I know, but I'm saying that song has been played so much. I thought maybe you guys would be a little numb to it.
I still never tire of that song.
Not really. Nope.
Not the live version of it.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't like the studio version that much, but I love
nor
the live
I.
version.
No, that's.
My favorite cut or side on that album is side 2. and again, because we've got Nothing to Lose, and we got Pete singing for the first time. You're hearing him sing, and
That's right.
But Parasite and She
don't tell me what
are
that's
the hardest darn songs
Absolutely.
Kiss have ever done.
That Parasite riff. Oh,
Yeah.
I remember hearing that on the radio when I was a kid. Just that before I even knew what Kiss was.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one exception on the studio album. If you go back and listen to Parasite,
It's good.
that Ace Frehley solo on there is just brutal.
Well, for me on side 2, it flows the best out of all 4 sides for me.
Yeah.
Because it is just one hard-hitting song. It gets faster and faster and faster, you know, and then it ends up with Ace's solo in the Eat Me Let You Tonk syndrome. So
Right. Right.
But that just amazing album.
I can't wait to use that in public. Hey, eat me, Leechy Tonk.
Yeah, I might get shot
Yeah,
nowadays.
damn it, that was my
You
shopping cart. Yeah, you might. Yeah. Get out of here, foreigner.
Yeah. Well, I think we've summed it up with Kiss Alive. I know we're all big fans of it. It's an album that you don't tire of, and
No.
it's held the test of time for sure. For an album that came out in 1975, I can listen to it any day of the week, and I don't tire of it.
And very influential. I mean,
Yes.
did it seem? It seemed to me that like after that album, everybody had to go out and release a live album.
There was an awful lot of them. I don't know the time frame when Frampton Comes Alive came out. It may have came out about the same time.
Shortly after that.
Me,
Yeah.
Frampton Comes Alive was about 9th grade, summer of
Yeah.
9th grade, or maybe summer before 9th grade.
That was the next huge live album.
Absolutely.
I remember Aerosmith came out with Live Bootleg, and that was
I didn't like that.
god awful album.
Yeah.
And it was a true bootleg sounding album, and that was like at the height of their drug use and
Yeah.
everything. They just
Probably why
Not
they
a-
called
not
it
a
that.
fan.
Yeah, it's not our
No.
fault.
I'll tell you what, if you do want to hear a good live album from Aerosmith, they've got one they recorded at the I think it's the Hard Rock or something like that in Las Vegas.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
the
It's got a
Vegas
lot
one.
of the newer songs, but they do a lot of the older ones too. It's produced really well. Yeah, it's a good live album. Foghat Live, huh? How about that?
Oh, the best.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another album
Home,
that I don't
home
tire.
in my hand. Home in my hand. Just the intro of that. It's I love
My-
it. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
My
Frank, go ahead.
only complaint is it's just a single album.
Right. 6
Yeah.
songs.
So
Good stuff though.
Yeah, they good band
mhm.
and some great slide playing in there,
The best.
and some wonderful bluesy stuff. They venture way outside the 3-minute mark.
Yes, they
but
do. They're a jam
And
band.
you still like them, Jim?
I still like them. I think
Dude.
they're a band that's like I thought kind of hugely underrated.
I would agree.
Yeah, they had their moment though. They were on top of the world for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a genre of blues rock that they played festivals and they played a lot of big gigs for quite a while, and they made a lot of noise for a 3-piece band, So
Yes, they did.
They did.
a band that had a live album that I didn't care for was Rush's live album. I know a lot of people love their live.
Exit Stage Left.
Yeah, and
Is that the one?
That's right. I forgot about that.
They are a band.
Right.
Me personally, I enjoy their studio albums more than their live album because it just doesn't come across as thick sounding, And that's you talk about a band that does over the 3-minute mark. Forget it. They're not.
Yeah,
They don't follow that formula.
It's too deep lyrically, man. We can't do that in 3 minutes, baby. I've got to tell
true.
a story.
That's true.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. That's a good album to go back and listen to. But let's look to the next episode. And I tell you what, Jerry, why don't you pick the next album?
Oh, it's my turn?
Yeah, this
No,
time
I'm
it
just
is your
kidding.
turn.
Guys, damn the torpedoes. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Hey, great.
What say? Oh,
Yes.
Excellent.
I would have never
Excellent
thought you would have
Beautiful.
picked that. Yeah.
I know.
I used to stare
Completely
at that
out of left
album
field.
cover. I used to stare at that album cover.
Yeah.
That Rickenbacker guitar. I would stare at it. I would stare at where his fingers were on the fretboard. I loved that album, and it was his first album after all the court issues with the record company and management and all this, and he was gone for a while. He had his other hits that we all know, but
What
then all
year
of a
did
sudden,
that come out, Jerry? Do you remember?
I want to say 79.
Somewhere
I
around there.
believe you are.
What I want to
correct.
say 79.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good stuff. That whole album is good stuff. I like Tom Petty. I like the Damn the Torpedoes, and then Hard Promises after that. Yeah.
Well, that'll be a good one to go back and listen to for sure and
Good.
revisit.
Yeah.
Well, if I tell you what, anybody out there, if you're an unsigned band, musician, you play banjo in the church choir, I don't care. You want to
Mouth harp.
there you go, a mouth
It
harp.
worked on a Who song.
You
Join
want
together.
your musical listen, write us at jfjshow@gmail.com and send us an MP3 and some information. We'll get back to you. We'd love to hear you. Jerry, you got anything you want to end this on?
Just keep rocking, people, and hang on a second, since we're right smack in between Christmas and New Year's, folks.
Look at you.
Yeah, we're right in between Christmas and New Year's, folks. You can figure out what date this is being recorded, but everybody just keep rocking in the new year, like Neil Young says, right? Keep our free world. But yeah, give us a listen on all the sites and let us know what you think. And like Jim says, smash that like button if you like us. Smash it if you don't.
Why do I want a bowl of Lucky Charms right now? I don't know. But
Well, they're magically delicious, Frank. That's why.
you got anything for us, Jim?
I think we're still trying to give away a T-shirt, are we not?
Oh, we are. We haven't got to where we're at, and they're cluttering up the warehouse. Yeah, and so I want to clear the warehouse out and get some of these T-shirts out there. What's so funny, Jerry? You got
We've got pallets full, people. Come on.
It's not even funny. I've had the
Kalosha's
Kalosha's on my
rock bottom.
back. We've
Damn,
got
Trying to get them cleared out.
infestation
Okay,
problem.
so iTunes, go to iTunes, subscribe, leave a review, Instagram, follow
JFJ
us.
Conspiracy on all of them except the Gmail. You want to drop us an email? It's jfjshow@gmail.com.
Did I
Sorry,
not say
Jim, to
that?
interrupt.
Did I not say
Yeah.
that?
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry, Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry. We're out of control.
What else? Instagram. Follow us. Leave a comment. What's our other way now?
Oh, now we are on Twitter.
Oh, we're, no. YouTube. Go on to YouTube.
Oh, big
Subscribe. Leave a comment.
Like,
We
subscribe,
want to give away some shirts. Come on,
share.
people.
Yes.
It's free. It's easy. Just take the time.
And it's the
do it.
holiday season, folks. You have no excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're off work.
and I'm scared of getting on the ladder to get this box down off the top shelf in the warehouse. So I want to
We'll
get
come out and help you, Frank.
get these things out there. Yeah, I need somebody with some height there. Well, hold on a second. Okay, now since we're,
Frank. Yeah, my man.
Jim, you're next.
Yeah, no hats and sides.
Better have
no.
a hat close by, fellow.
It's not happening. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, if that's about it. This is completely off the rails tonight, and there was no alcohol or drugs involved.
No.
It was just one of those nights. So
Yeah.
hope you enjoyed the JFJ conspiracy. And with that, I guess the shop is closed.
Shop is closed.
Keep rocking, people.
All right.